was having a conversation earlier today with a colleague of mine, and we have many teachers that we share, but she reminded me of something that one of our teachers likes to tell, which is that any experience can be an educational experience if we take the time to think about it and process it and learn from it. And the story of Joseph and his brothers is a good example, as Rabbi Levin pointed out earlier, of an opportunity to take good learning from bad experiences. But the story is still incredibly difficult to swallow. And Rabbi, I have to be honest, as I heard your words before about looking to say, thank God, I think it's so difficult. Because so many times we might be looking for the silver lining, but it just simply isn't there for us to say, at least not readily, thank God that we can. And that's especially true when the pain that we feel has been inflicted upon us by others. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, of blessed memory, pointed out in his Devar Torah for Vayigash that it is in this portion that the idea of forgiveness is first presented in Torah. And scholars have gone even farther to suggest that if you look at the texts of the ancient Near East, the first mention of forgiveness in this parsha is the first mention of forgiveness in the history of humanity, full stop. Because in the ancient world, there wasn't time for forgiveness. There was just the infliction of pain and retribution. And retribution for that, and retribution for that, and the cycle of violence that so often would take families and communities and nations into the depths of war. It is why, for example, as another example of the need for forgiveness, our Torah creates what it's called the Ir Miklat, the city of refuge. That if you commit manslaughter, if you accidentally take the life of someone else, you can flee there with the sole purpose of avoiding being killed in return by their family, to try to bring a stop to that cycle of violence. And so we are taught in this portion the value of forgiveness. And I remember being taught as a kid, forgive and forget. Except forgive and forget is not at all the message of our Torah. It isn't really the message of our people. Because we are told that the path to forgiveness has several steps along the way. It is awareness of what we did, turning that experience into a learning experience. It is doing acts of teshuvah, of repair, of repentance, of trying to make amends to the person we harmed, asking them for their forgiveness, perhaps even vowing not to repeat those acts in the future. If we make a vow not to repeat an act in the future, that experience must remain in our minds for the rest of our lives, so that when we perceive ourselves approaching the opportunity to repeat that act, we say, put that cookie back. Don't even think about it. When you forgive someone, you don't say to them, it's as if it never happened. When you forgive someone, you say, we both know what happened here. We both felt what we felt, experienced what we experienced. But for the good of me, and for the good of you, and for the good of us, and for the good of all of us, we are going to find a way forward. I will ask your forgiveness so we can continue to grow. And that is what happens with the story of Joseph and his brothers. Joseph could have tried to mollify his brothers' fears by saying, it's a low big deal. So you tried to sell me to the Egyptians. So you did. You almost killed me. It was the 70s. Who cares? But that's not the message that Joseph says. Joseph looks for the good, looks for something that we ought to all learn from this story. To ask ourselves, what does it mean that we are put in these positions to do this? What role did the Holy One have in this? And what good might come from that? And if we can't find a good, let us at least say that what we can resolve from the things from which we ask for forgiveness, that the good that will certainly come is the pain that I inflicted should never be inflicted again. Shabbat Shalom.